Hello, I'm Pamela Goodall, better known as, and I'm here and I want to talk a little bit about spirituality and my beliefs. So an explanation I found on the internet is spirituality is not a religion. Spirituality is learning about and experiencing one's own deeper self. And this leads to the realization of truth and spiritual reality. My favourite quote comes from a book called Conversations with God, Book 1 by Neale Donald Walsch. And the quote is, "Religions are man-made, spirituality is an experience." And that came from God, channeled by Neale Donald Walsch. I think I will explain a little bit first, and I need to explain that this is my view. After all, everyone's entitled to their view, and I consider everyone to be spiritual, and people will say to me, "Oh, no, I'm not spiritual at all, not in the least." But let me compare this with art. Everyone can draw, and again, people will say, "Oh, I can't draw." And I say, "Well, can you draw a line? Can you draw a stick figure?" If so, you can draw, maybe very simply, but you can draw. So, yes, there are masters like Monet and Rembrandt, but everywhere is somewhere on that line, on that scale between stick figure and fantastic work of art. And in between are the majority of us. And there are many different types of art. So, for example, there's fine art and oils, pencil work, pottery, woodwork, embroidery, cake decoration, architecture, lots and lots of different styles of art. A whole gamut of different styles, and we can all do some of it, even if it's only the stick figure. And the same with spirituality. We can all do some of it, and we're all on different levels of learning. So if you've ever had any experience which you called spooky, then you've probably had a psychic or even maybe a spiritual experience. And it could have been the telephone rings and you know who it is. Or you know what someone's going to say before they say it. You get a sudden urge to go somewhere, to do something, and it turns out to be the right thing to do at that time. Some of you may be unable to understand people's true inner feelings, even though they're showing something different on the outside. You might have a shiver, ooh, and say, "Someone's just walked over my grave." I guess we've all done that. And maybe someone else. See a movement out the corner of your eye and have feathers or coins drop in front of you, or find them in strange places. Know there's someone in the room with you that you cannot see. Any of these and many more are spiritual or psychic experiences, and many of you will have had at least one of them. So to some degree, we're all spiritual people, whether you like hearing that or not. So perhaps I'll tell you a little bit about my spirituality. I got my little cat suddenly come, so excuse me. Now, I know I've always been spiritual, but I didn't always know it when I was younger. As a child, I went to Sunday school and to Church of England, and enjoyed both. However, young as I was, it never felt enough for me. Before communion, when everyone said the prayer for forgiveness, I would always add a little bit extra. And one of the things I said was, I was sorry and I wanted to be forgiven for things I had done wrong, known or unknown. For we don't always know when we've done something wrong or hurt someone by our words or actions. Quite a wise child, perhaps. I also talked to God whenever I wanted to. I didn't hear the answers all the time, but I knew I didn't need to go through a priest, vicar, minister, anybody else to talk to God. I also knew that God was loving and kind and wasn't an angry God at all. And I wouldn't be condemned to hell. Prayer can be talking to God, but prayer can also be done by rote, without meaning, like chanting the times tables when you were small at school. Well, at least I did. So I guess we've all done prayers by rote at one time or another. Especially the Lord's Prayer. You know it off by heart, you just say it, but do you mean it? I'm sure many people here talk directly to God, and you don't need an intermediary, a priest, vicar, rabbi, minister, guru. However, I am not saying don't go to church or temple or mosque, etc. Some people prefer a set service or ritual, and that's fine. I'm reminded of when I was on holiday in Turkey. We were all in a roof restaurant at a small hotel, and everyone got very friendly. However, it said never talk religion or politics. But on this particular evening, someone started a conversation about religion. Everyone had their own view. I just said that I thought everyone found their own way to God through different ways and religions, as though we all started in different positions at the bottom of a mountain and met God at the top. The hotel owner, a Turk and a Muslim, was absolutely delighted with this statement and agreed with me. Some of the most spiritual people in the world are the indigenous people of Australia, the Amazon, Native American Indians, many more around the world. So it doesn't matter if you go to church, temple, mosque or not, you can still talk to God. And if you do, then I class you as spiritual. Now, not everyone agrees with me, not even in the spiritual world. But hey, this is my talk and my belief. And by the way, God, as I say, having been brought up in Church of England, doesn't mind what name is given. Whether it's God, Jehovah, Allah, Messiah, Great Spirit, the Creator, the universe, the mystery, the all there is, Shirley, or any other name that's not derogatory. I usually say Creator these days. And is God male or female, or neither? Well, it's my belief that God is pure energy and encompasses masculine and feminine attributes. So back to being spiritual. So it's talking to God, and what else? Well, for many people, there comes a time in their life when they might be querying some ideas and concepts that have been around for a long, long time. They start feeling confused as some of the ideas in their head seem different to what's considered normal. For me, this is exactly what happened. I'd always been interested in anything psychic and wondered about all strange things like fortune tellers, alternative therapies, etc. Well, one day I was lent a book, which I mentioned previously, called Conversations with God, Book 1. Once I'd started reading this book, I couldn't put it down. For immediately it started to answer all the questions, all of my questions. And I thought, gosh, I'm not going mad. Other people have had these same questions. The author of this book was going through a terrible time in his life. Nothing was going right. His marriage had ended. He couldn't see his children. He lost his job and was living in a tent. So one day he wrote an extremely angry letter to God on his notepad saying, "Why? Why's all this horrible stuff happening to me?" Well, he said more than that, and not in those words, but you might want to read the book yourself one day. You never know. Anyway, he was still holding the pen, and it seemed as though he wanted to write an answer from God. He wrote this answer down, and to him God was saying, "Are you just venting, or do you really want to know?" Well, he did want to know, and asked the same questions I had. And God gave him the answers. I was hooked on this book and couldn't put it down, and I think I've read 5 of his books now. Through reading this book and by joining a spiritual development group and doing meditation, this awakened me on my spiritual path. And by the way, as soon as I did a meditation, I fell in love with the feeling. Absolutely fell in love. Now everyone's unique. Excuse me. Everyone's unique, and each person finds their own way onto their spiritual path. Some people, like Saul in the Bible, have a revelation, a great light from heaven surrounding them, and a voice saying, "Saul, why do you persecute me?" And Saul was struck blind for 3 days. A disciple of the Lord called Ananias was asked by God to heal Saul of his blindness. And when Saul was healed, he was baptized and became a Christian called Paul. Now, not many of us have a revelation like that, but we might just find ourselves questioning our old beliefs. Or someone might say something that makes us think, hang on a minute, there might be something in that. Some people have a near-death experience, whether accidental, suicidal, or an actual threat, and this too can change views and sometimes sets people on their path. There are so many different ways to find your spiritual path. And what's a spiritual path anyway? Well, it's just what we say when we say you're seeking to become more like God, which is what we are aiming to do. Then we find there are several lessons to be learnt. But I consider that there are 2 main ones. To love unconditionally and to be truly forgiving. So to be truly loving unconditionally, I don't mean loving your family and friends. That's good, but most of us do that anyway. I'm talking about learning to love yourself. Extremely hard for most people. To love everyone in the world. Loving unconditionally. Loving them no matter what their race, religion, whether they've been good or bad. Not an easy thing to do, I'm sure you'll agree. But it takes time, but it is possible. Jesus taught us, love thy neighbour as yourself. Did Jesus mean your next door neighbour? No, he meant everyone in the world is your neighbour. And what is unconditional love? Most of us love conditionally. I'll love you if you love me. I'll love you if you do this for me. Unconditional love is loving someone, whether they love you or not, and no matter what they do. I think the nearest analogy to this is parental love. There are times when, as parents, we actually don't like our children very much. It doesn't stop us loving them. We can love them, but not like what they're actually doing or how they're behaving. So unconditional love is loving everyone, no matter what they do, whether they murder, rape, steal, are aggressive, are loving and giving, because everyone is a child of God. And the second most important lesson, in my view, is to learn to be truly forgiving. Often as humans, we say, I'll forgive you, but I'll never forget. Some people say, if you've said that, then you truly haven't forgiven. Personally, I think it's okay to remember, as long as you've learnt the lesson that came with that situation. When we do not forgive, we hold resentment in ourselves. Anything negative that we hold within us stops us from moving on. Large resentments and angers we remember, but there are also small things that hold us back. We often don't remember the small things. For example, Johnny in the playground took our ball, our doll, our toy, and wouldn't give it back. Or our mum and dad told us off and it was our brother or sister who'd been naughty, not us. We may not remember this, but the memory can still be deep within us and is holding on to that negativity and therefore needs to be healed. Jesus often healed the mind before healing the body, because the mind often holds on to resentments, anger, and is unforgiving. These negative thoughts can create sickness and dis-ease within the physical body. Even some doctors are beginning to realize this. When we learn to release resentments, anger, and other negative thoughts, then we can start to heal our physical selves. We even have a saying, mind over matter. Jesus forgave his enemies when on the cross, saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." When we can forgive our enemies, then we've truly taken a giant step forward on our spiritual path. Now, there's a children's story which I absolutely love. It's not my story. It's a children's story from Cryon, who is spirit, channels through Lee Carroll in America. But this story is about two little spirits in heaven. And one little spirit says to his best friend, "I want to learn to forgive." And his best friend says, "Who are you going to forgive? There's nobody up here to forgive." And his mate says, "Well, I'd really like to learn to forgive." So his best friend, his very, very best friend, says, "I'll tell you what, we'll both go down to earth. And I'll be really nasty to you, and you can forgive me." So maybe, just maybe, your enemy down here is actually your best friend in spirit. So what else about being spiritual? Well, we meditate. There are different ways to meditate. You can think about things. In its literal sense, it's thinking about things. You meditate upon something. But you can also use your imagination. Often at the end of an exercise class, the leader will use a simple meditation to relax people, and the leader would ask them to lie down, imagine themselves on a beach, fine white sand, sky's blue, the sun's shining, there's a gentle warm breeze, maybe palm trees, birds singing. So lovely just to relax. Just a simple, relaxing meditation. But you can also follow a guided meditation, and you can buy meditation CDs. You can find many meditations online, or you can join a group with a person leading you on a journey through a meditation. You can meditate using transcendental meditation. This technique allows your mind to settle inward, beyond thought, to experience the source of thought, pure awareness, also known as transcendental consciousness or the unified field. Now, personally, I never got to the stage of transcendental consciousness until I first went through guided meditations. But everyone learns differently and at different speeds. So can anyone meditate? Yes, of course, but maybe some need to practice more than others. So I'm just going to do a simple visualization with you. And perhaps if you close your eyes and imagine a table in front of you. You're sat at this table. And in front of you is a plate and a knife. And on the plate is a lemon. Now, in your mind's eye, I would like you to pick up the knife and cut the lemon into quarters. Now pick up 1/4 lemon and take a good bite. Okay, you can open your eyes. And how many of you could see the lemon? How many of you went as you bit into the lemon? You've just done a very short and simple meditation. You visualized it, you acted it, you experienced it. Another simple Buddhist meditation is to just notice your breath, which can help you calm your mind and help you sleep. Most of us breathe very shallowly, just using the top of our lungs, instead of filling our lungs, which our body needs us to do. So this exercise is about deeper breathing, and I'll just demonstrate. Sort of breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, fill in the lungs. So if you want to practice that, you take a deep breath in through your nose, fill your lungs, and exhale through your mouth. While you're doing this, you'll probably get a thought come in. Well, acknowledge it and then send it on its way. Say, no, I'm not thinking about you. I'm thinking about my breathing. Then come back to thinking about coming into your nose and out through your mouth. If you practice this, eventually there will be no thoughts and you'll be at peace. But there's also another way you can do that. You can count. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this keeps your mind busy, a bit like counting sheep, and so not allowing the thoughts in. Now, you might not do all this on the first time. You might not even do it on the third time. But I guarantee that if you keep practicing, you will get more relaxed and you will be able to fall asleep very quickly. My head hardly hits the pillow before I'm asleep. Sometimes I don't have time to say my prayers and I say them in the morning instead. So, and do you have to be in a special position to meditate? No. If you wish to sit cross-legged on the floor, hands on knees, that's great for those that can. But you can sit on a chair or lie down on the floor or on a bed. It's your choice. The only thing I would say is to keep your body open. So don't cross your legs or arms, because even human to human, that means I don't want to know you. So it's the same with spirit. You're open to receive. So you keep yourself open to spirit. So, okay, why do we meditate? We can do so many things in meditation. For instance, you can meet loved ones. You can also meet your animals and pets that have passed. You can meet your guardian angels, and yes, we do all have one. You can meet spirit guide and guides, and yes, again, we all have one. You can also work on loving yourself, on loving others, sending love to others. You can work on forgiveness for yourself and for others. You can send protection. You can send love to the world. You can help heal the world. You can send light to the world, and so much more. Spirituality is about being on your path back to God. So what does that mean? Well, it's about trying to be more like God, about becoming as perfect as you can in this lifetime. Now, we live on an imperfect planet, so we can't expect to be perfect here. We are all imperfect. But spirituality is also being able to see past your own self, to let go of your ego, to not be too much in your ego. For example, I'm brilliant at this, or to be too humble. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at this. Spirituality is all about trying to balance your ego. A friend of mine has an ego meter, which he uses, and so do I now. Basically, imagine a triangle and a plank across it. And that's your ego meter. If the seesaw, as I call it, is balanced, your ego is fine and balanced. But if it's up or down, then it's out of sync and you need to balance yourself, probably by doing your chakras. But that's another time. So what else? Well, it's being open to the many wonders that exist within and around us in this plane of existence. As humans, we use our 5 senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, to experience our world. In spirituality, it's the ability to tap into areas of life beyond what is normal by using our 6th sense as well. So what else can you do to achieve this? How about changing the way you watch the news? The media love to keep us reading and hearing about the news, mostly reporting on the negativity in the world. And when people watch the news or read the newspapers, they hear about terrible things people have done, about disasters. And how do they react? Many people react in anger or in sympathy or in some other negative way. For sympathy is negative, sorry, but it is. When you're sympathetic by saying something like, oh, that's dreadful, you're actually adding to the negativity. Instead, try being positive and understanding and being empathetic. One of the laws of the universe is like attracts like. So negative thoughts are attracted to other negative thoughts. I always imagine this as a cloud of negative thoughts hanging over the world. Wouldn't it be wonderful if instead of a negative cloud, there was an enormous, gigantic cloud of wonderful positive thoughts over the whole world, chasing away the last of the negativity? So if everyone who watches the news sends positive thoughts rather than negative ones, Or how about sending love and forgiveness to all victims? And what about the perpetrators? After all, they are children of God, and God doesn't judge them. How about sending empathy, understanding and love to those in disasters? This is how many spiritual people react to the news. It's absolutely wonderful to see people reacting with money when there's a disaster because they want to help. And of course, there are many who physically help with that disaster. But what if you're not in the area? What else could you do as a spiritual person? I think I'll tell you about what happened in the meditation group I went to the day after 9/11, when the Twin Towers in New York were blown up. We know now there's controversy about what happened, but whatever, it was a tragedy. People died and were hurt. At our group, our leader said she thought that we should just all go into meditation and ask if we could do anything to help. After the meditation, some said they've been with injured people in the hospital, giving healing. Some said they were with relatives and friends, giving comfort. Some were with the rescuers, giving strength. Everyone was helping someone spiritually in some way. For me, as soon as I'd asked what I could do to help, I was as spirit, dressed in white, within the rubble of one of the buildings. And I was skipping along and singing. There was my hand with the ball of light. Come with me and follow the light. Come with me and follow the light. And when I came to someone who's died, but whose spirit was in shock and therefore hadn't passed, I held their hand in my left hand to take them with me and started skipping and singing through the rubble again. Each time I found another person in spirit, they would hold hands with the last person in the long chain of spirits. And when there were 60 spirits in line with me, we ascended to where the angels were waiting to take these shocked spirits into the light and give healing. An angel thanked me and asked me if I would go back and do the same again. I think I went to the other tower and again was singing and skipping and holding the light. The same process happened, and I collected another 60 spirits in a long chain. Again we ascended, and the angels thanked me and told me I'd done enough for now and that others would take over. Now, I don't know why I knew there were 60 each time, but somehow I did. And sometime after, and by the way, when you pass someone who's stuck on this earth plane, it needs someone who's human, who's grounded, to actually, who can go into spirit to actually help pass them, because spirit can't touch the ground. Spirit is spirit. It's not 3D. So we need to be touching, coming up to meet spirit. Now, sometime after this, a spirit was drawn to me for helping passing over. And this was something I did on a fairly regular basis, as spirits are drawn to our light. This spirit, when asked, said his name was Ben, and he was an American fireman who died when helping out at the Twin Towers. Now, I don't know why he didn't find someone in America to help him pass over, or why he'd come to me in England, but I was happy to help him into the light and into the arms of the angels. The strange thing was that instead of asking him to step into a pillar of light, as I usually did, I automatically asked him to step into the elevator of life, and he ascended where an angel met him. So not just me, but many spiritual people are working quietly in this way to help the world. The more you work on yourself, the faster you travel along the path. And it's within everyone to become more spiritual. And it is in our nature, in our soul, to want to return to God. And to do that, we want to become more like God, more loving, more caring, more forgiving. So spirituality is associated with being compassionate and considerate to others, seeking to better yourself, having faith, believing, even when nobody else does, having patience. My son and daughter will laugh at me saying that. Loving unconditionally, giving time and talents to help others, being honourable, speaking your truth and not being afraid to do so, being true to yourself. And when we've worked hard on ourselves and we practice the principles of unconditional love and charity, we see the world as a beautiful place and know that everyone is a child of God. If we all practiced unconditional love and forgiveness daily by thought, word and deed, then we would see a positive difference in the world. World peace could be attained. How wonderful would that be? Everyone will eventually attain spirituality, whether in this life or another. However, you can add to your life awareness, health and understanding simply by making a choice to do the things that are right and necessary to achieve this. When you focus on the betterment of yourself and helping others through loving kindness and showing your light to the world, you can also be the best example that you can possibly be. No, I'm not complaining, but there are wonderful examples such as Mother Teresa, Gandhi, and Nelson Mandela. So on a spiritual path, we constantly work on ourselves to achieve being love and forgiveness. Now, no one ever said this was easy. In fact, it's often extremely hard, and we may have to try and try again and again until we get things right. Children have a wonderful spirituality which flows through their capacities for spontaneous joy and wonder. I'm sure you've all seen a child gazing at something in awe. Might be a daisy, a worm, or even your face. A sense of fascination, mystery, awe and delight are facets of adult spirituality too. And spirituality involves a holistic appreciation of a universe in which everyone and everything is connected seamlessly with everyone and everything else. Even the scientists are saying this now. Woohoo, they're catching up. Spiritual people often say all is one and all is connected. I consider this true. In my belief, God is everything. I believe that God is energy and contains everything we know. The whole universe, or even, as Spirit Call says, the multiverse. I believe we're all small parts in that energy, like a piece in a jigsaw, but a unique piece that's necessary for the whole, or like a cell of God. Channelings often state that we have God inside. Higher masters who channel often say they can be individual, but they also meld with the whole. Scientifically, it's been proved that we, plus everything in the universe, is energy, just at different levels of lightness or density, and also that everything is connected. So for me, this confirms my belief that I am, and you are, part of God. Joy, wonder, and holism can be achieved, but may feel challenging, more intimidating than exhilarating at first. Later, with familiarity, spirituality may be increasingly restful, like a beautiful paradise garden. Why not experiment using all 6 senses and your capacity for mindful reflection? A spiritual path, which involves kindness, compassion, fairness and justice, peace, transparency, truth and equality. Spirituality relates to our beliefs about ourselves in a bigger context than the self-serving me society that's so prevalent now. Can you walk a spiritual path and not care about the ecology of our planet? I don't believe so. Can you be a spiritual person and exploit or mistreat other people? Again, I don't think so. Spirituality has a belief that we have been given this life to improve ourselves, our community, and the wider world, and the lives of those here and in the future. My time is nearly up. Many people, you can join a group, whether it's Buddhist, or whether it's Wiccan or pagan or spiritual, angelic, whatever, or go to a church, mosque, temple, synagogue. Many people go to the internet these days and prefer to go it alone, but I would say it's stronger in a group. Why not take advantage of life's literally wonderful opportunities for excitement, learning and growth? Why hesitate? What do you have to lose? Let's spread love, light and peace. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to my website, www.keychanges.co.uk. I'll put it in the notes or the chat. And thank you very much for watching.